I just heard the fact that we need to choose between me and theater. And yesterday I participated in Michelle's trauma workshop. And I just wanted, no pressure, but when I was 10 years old, a pretty girl in my classroom had to choose between me and another boy. And she chose the other boy.
Can you put it
So it's your
louder?
chance for a corrective emotional
Louder!
I want to share with you my thoughts this morning. I was contemplating which ABBA song I want to put on my presentation. I said, there's no way that I'm going to Sweden and not putting an ABBA song. And I talked with my wife about it. She said, well, is it relevant for the presentation? I said, not so much, but listen. You know, in Israel, we take the Eurovision very seriously. We're in the land of the Eurovision. You know, I mean, my childhood memories were full with Eurovision songs. But I said at the end, you know, she's a serious person, my wife, a professor at the university. I said, you're right. And you know, in relationships, there are 3 words, which are the most important 3 words in a relationship. And they are not, I love you, they are, you are right. So, once again, I hope she's right. So we're going to talk about parental conflict. And the first question is, who is afraid of parents fighting among themselves? And I must tell you that for many years I was very afraid. Okay, I didn't like it when parents started fighting among themselves. Why? Because I couldn't, you know, coach them. I wanted to coach them on sit-in and an announcement. They were starting to bicker among themselves. Okay? And it became worse when I started training folks on NVR, because I would do role-playing and I would become very confident. I want to show how you do a sit-in. And then 2 volunteers, very nice volunteers, would say, sure, we'll play parents. And they always play parents who are fighting with themselves. And of course, I got screwed. Okay, you cannot deliver, okay, the parent coaching tools when parents are in an intense fight. It's impossible. So I thought that I had to find a way not to be embarrassed every workshop. And this presentation is a result of these thoughts. Now, I was afraid because I had some pretty difficult experiences also. And one of them was a couple of years ago. I spent a number of years in America. I worked as a couples therapist in a big couples therapy institute. And of course, my worst 2 clients were Israelis. And they would fight endlessly, very loud, and I didn't know what to do. So I did some logistic changes. I set them for the last hour when there are not too many therapists. It was a big practice. And I chose a secluded room. And yet still, the fighting went on. I felt very embarrassed. I would leave the room after therapy very shamefully for, the fear that my colleagues would look at me, and I knew that these sessions were disturbing other therapists and other families and couples, and I was very ashamed of the fact that I cannot reduce the escalation in the room. And then I remembered that I'm an NVR therapist. And I said, and I chose a couple of colleagues who were sitting next to me. And I said, I have to apologize. I'm working with this couple, and I know that the screaming and yelling is disturbing you very much. They said, you're right. We didn't know what to do about it also. I said, I need your help. And I want you next session, wait outside the room. And when these parents start shouting and yelling, I want you to enter the room and say, we can't continue on like this. Making basically a short announcement. And indeed, the parents start the session after 5-10 minutes. Okay, the flames are high. Knock on the door. My 3 colleagues enter. I play as if I'm surprised. And they say, you know, this is a couples therapy institute. You're allowed to have fights, but this is too much. And he stayed there for another minute, present. And they left. And the wife looks at me and says, oh, this is so embarrassing. I said, yeah. Listen, parent coaches don't like it when parents start fighting because it's changing the focus. And the focus is on the parents' relationship with each other instead of the relationship between the parent and the child. And it's not good. It's changing the focus of our work. Second of all, it creates a sense of helplessness. Where, if you sat with parents who started fighting with each other, it creates a sense of helplessness and a sense of doubt. Is this in the domain of parent training, or is this in the domain of couples therapy? And often, folks who have been, or parent trainers, coaches, they feel as if they don't have the abilities to handle such conflict and says, no, this is, this belongs to my colleagues, the couples therapy. And this situation of the doubt of whether we should continue doing the parenting work or the couples work is a result of how family therapy developed over the years. In the past, it used to be an integrated model. When you see, the classical family therapists, they were sitting with the whole family, talking a little bit with the kids, at some point kicking them out, working with the couple. But as time has passed in the last 40 years, actually 2 sub-disciplines developed this unified family therapy treatment. One is parent coaching and one is couples therapy. Okay, and each became highly specialized. But now, when we have situations of parents fighting with each other, it's not obvious whom does this belong to. The fear, of course, is that it will ruin the NVR process, okay? And often we will try to, reduce and diminish the conflict very quickly. What I would like to show you during this presentation is actually how to use these structures in a way which turns the therapy into something much more gratifying, both for the family and for yourselves. Okay, so my wish is that by the end of this presentation, when you will actually hope for parents to start fighting. And that's how I feel. And why do I like it when parents start fighting with each other? The first reason, this doesn't work. But first reason is that it's not boring. Okay? I don't like silent parents. I actually like to look at my schedule and see my fighting parents at the end of the day. I know they will keep me alive. And the second thing that I like why I like parents fighting is that if they're fighting with each other, they're not fighting with me. And the third reason that I like why parents fight with each other is, this is a serious reason, is that they give me permission to talk about the relationship. because one of them stands up and says, "We didn't come here for couples therapy." Who says that, the mother or the father? The father. Okay. "We didn't come here for the couples therapy, and you don't want," and it's true, the contract is coming for parent training. But you still want to be able to talk with parents about the relationship. Why? Because it's the greatest source of their power. Okay? And I tell parents from the very first session, whether they're fighting among themselves or not fighting, what I tell them is, your greatest source of power is your relationship, is your ability to advise each other, comfort each other, support each other, hug each other, regulate each other's emotions. And I want to know whether it's okay if I will help you become the best team you can be. Are you giving me permission for that? And once you talk like that to parents, okay, you never get a refusal. I've never ever heard parents say, "No, we don't want you to work on our team abilities." Okay, if you talk about couples therapy, you will get many rejections. But teamwork, and in Israel I use the word unit, because it has this military association, and I'm saying you're going to turn you into the best unit. Of course, the husband suddenly is the first one to say yes. Now, when I'm talking about the relationship parents have with each other, I'm talking actually about the distinct part of the relationship that the couple has. Okay, in the research literature, this is called co-parenting. We're familiar with this concept from couples who have been divorced. But co-parenting actually relates to the relationship that parents have with each other around their parenting. And it's distinct from their intimate and romantic relationship. I mean, we know, of course, of parents and couples who work very well as a team around their parenting and are a lousy couple. The last time they had sex was 3 years ago, but once they need to deal with the parenting issues, they're working very well. And we know that we have the other way around. We have couples that are lousy as a team concerning their parenting, but you send them to a vacation together, they have a great time. They return back and the kid is doing some problems and they regress to fighting. And okay, so this is something distinct. And I'm saying it because when parents start fighting, I'm thinking of it as a part of our parenting work, part of our NVR work, which is developing, this mutual support between the parents. The relationship that the parents are having around their parenting. And it's crucial to help parents start communicating about it. And parents aren't very good in communicating around their parenting needs. Now, of course, the parental relationship is very central in the family. And it's affected by the child behavior, by the intimate and romantic qualities, by the parenting skills. Who, by the way, do you think is more effective in his or her parenting by the couple dynamics? Is it father or mother? If the couple is having negative dynamics as a couple, as an intimate couple, who's affected more, father or mother? Father. Okay, father. They become, on average, more distant. Okay, mothers usually, on average, become closer, sometimes boundaryless. But fathers were affected more in their parenting than mothers. Now, when I talk about improving parental relationship, actually I'm talking, and I'll focus in this presentation, about two areas. One is I call it teamwork. Okay, how can the parents parent together more effectively. And the second part is reducing the parental fighting, the parental conflict in session. Okay, I'll present these two ideas. And we'll start with teamwork, and teamwork relates to two phases. The phase of during the fight years with the child. Okay, how do I improve the teamwork of parents when they're having a fight with a child? And more crucial is how do I develop the teamwork of parents after they have a fight, after one of them or both of them had, a painful interaction with the child. Let's start with during the fight with the child. And the first very interesting fact about fights between parents and children is that it starts as a fight between one parent and one child. Okay, that's how it starts. It doesn't start as two parents against the child. It starts as one parent against the child. And I would like just two volunteers just to stand here for a second. Just stand. Nothing, you don't have to say anything. Two people. Who's coming? Thanks. Tobias. Okay. So, Tobias is the father. Can you stand here, please? And dealing with his son, and they're having a fight. Okay? And I'm mother. And I'm in a dilemma now. What should I do when they're having a fight? And usually parents don't think of this dilemma, but it's a huge, dramatic moment. Okay? What should I do? Father is starting to become very angry. Son is starting to become, there's an escalation. And I, mother, what am I supposed to do? It's worse because we don't have any models. It's unbelievable. With all the parenting books, there are no models for how parents work together as a team. Okay, the only model that has some ideas is Chaim's NVR. Okay, it's unbelievable. No models for how to deal with this situation. Okay, and without such models, we get in trouble. Now we have one basic model, the unified front, right? Parents are supposed to be consistent, okay, and be a unified front against the poor child. But there is huge problems with this idea of a unified front, because you know how parents interpret it? They interpret it as the following. Father says to son, "You didn't do your homework?" Mother, hear it from the background. Saying, "He never does his homework." Father says, "You know what? I'm going to punish you for that." And mother says, "Yeah, take his computer. We should take, no football game for him." The father says, yeah, I took him to too many football games. No football games for you. They start, eating each other up. And they tell me, we work very well as a team. Okay, we're very synchronized with one another. We really are a unified team. And these unified front metaphor, which is the only one we have, creates huge escalations between parents and children. It's unbelievable. Okay, why do we want two parents, to go crazy, lose control, become helpless together? There's no logic in it. We want one of them, if one of them has to lose control, escalate, become helpless, become sad, lose hope and so forth, we want one of them to have that, and the other, who is more regulated, to help regulate the parent who lost control. And this can happen only if there is some kind of inconsistency between the parents. Okay, we don't want them. This is another lecture that I give parents who also say, we're not consistent, we're not a good team. And say, I like it that you have different parental styles. That's not the problem. The problem is how to help you work together in a synchronized, in a respectful way. You don't need to have the same style. It doesn't make any sense. And they like it. Okay, and I tell them, I'll help you, use your differences in a creative, in an effective way. But how should I enter if I'm not coming and starting to, if I not come and support my husband? What am I supposed to do? One option is that I do not enter the fight if I'm the mother. Okay, I say I will, respect my husband, and I will not intervene. But the father can interpret that as being alone in the fight, feeling neglected. Okay? So that can lead to a fight between us. I can think to myself, oh, he looks tired, he's angry, I will replace him. Okay? And I push him aside, gently or not gently, and now I'm dealing with the son, but he can feel that, I'm pushing him aside, I'm not appreciating, respecting his position. So there are many different types of interventions that even come from good intentions. Thank you very much. That come from good intentions, but that lead to more conflict in the family. And how can we avoid that? We avoid that by asking a simple question, which is seldom asked. What do you want me to do when you're having a fight with a child? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to intervene? Do you want me to stay outside? Do you want me to give you a hug? What do you want me to do? And parents don't have this conversation. And we as therapists need to help them have this conversation. Okay? Why? Because like other NVR interventions, part of the parental control comes from the planning. Okay? They plan on how to work together as a team, and we want to develop that. Now let's talk about teamwork after the fight with a child. And here, I'm using, the principle of striking the iron when it's cold in regards to parents and the parenting relationship. Okay, most effective interventions will not happen during the fight, but after the fight. Okay, once a parent had a fight, and what does the other parent do? And in my left, parents act as emotional regulators for each other. Okay, how can they regulate painful, emotions that have occurred as a result of the fight? Yet, parents are often ashamed of talking caringly to one another around their parenting. Very interesting. It took me some time to really figure that thing out. Parents don't talk gently to one another around their parenting. They can talk gently with one another around their relationship, intimate relationship, but not around their parenting. It's very interesting. And you will experience it yourself because it's built in. Now, I said shame, and since I'm interested in the subject, I will say a few words about that. The first is, after practicing the NVR model for almost 20 years now, I've come to understand that when we're dealing with families with a child with behavioral problems, what we're actually doing is helping the child regulate their shame, and actually helping parents regulate their shame. What is shame? What's the emotion of shame? It's the emotion when we feel humiliated, disrespected, unappreciated, inferior. Okay? And the families that we work with, this emotion is by far the most prominent emotion. Okay, it's the emotion that we have when we have power struggles, when people are fighting over hierarchy and who has more power. Okay? And when we're talking about fighting, the most common way of dealing with shame is actually transferring it from one another, from one family member to the other. That's how I actually view fights. So if I'm hurt, if I feel as a victim, if I feel disrespected, humiliated, underappreciated, the easiest way and the most common way to regulate that emotion is to transfer it to another person and making them feel inferior, disrespected, and underappreciated. Then we have a sense of value. They have to deal now with this emotion, and that's how it kind of now it's their turn to deal with the experience of shame. I've written an article about public opinion as a main intervention, actually the best intervention for regulating shame for children and their parents. And today I actually tailor all the NVR interventions as shame-reducing interventions. Now, I would like to present to you a couple of dialogues of how parents can regulate the shame, the experience of humiliation, the experience of feeling loss of values, weakness, feeling alone, disconnected, all experiences related to shame. Okay? And while I'm presenting these dialogues, I want you to notice also your own inner reaction. Okay? And inner reactions such as, well, parents can't talk like that to one another. No way. Okay, I've never heard parents talk this way. Okay, I want you to notice this reaction because, it's very interesting when we're talking about improving parent-child relationships. We talk about having them have warmer, more validating interactions. When we talk about improving couple relationships, we talk about them having warmer, more validating, more appreciative interactions. But when we talk about parents, it doesn't sound right. Okay, it doesn't belong. So first of all, let's see, how do we regulate shame? By reminding the parent of his or her values. One trigger for experiencing shame is when the parent behaves in ways which are not in accord with their values. And the father comes to the mother and says, I feel like killing him. Now the mother, if she would have been in a maybe regular or lousy mood, she would say, and I feel like killing you, so what? But today she's in a good mood. And she says, well, he sure knows how to push all our buttons. And father continues angry, yes, but I lost control and said things I should not have said. And mother's reaction is maybe, but in my view, you're still a good dad. Nice, huh? Now, yesterday, Rick, I think, talked about how we're being seen. The mother says, in my view, in my eyes, you're a good father. Now, Leon Wormser is one of the important shame researchers. He says the eyes are the organ of shame. And she's saying, in my eyes, she's reminding him, you're still a good father. But it's not enough. He says a good father doesn't call his son a stupid idiot. And she could have said, you know what, I tried Uri's nice talk. Enough is enough. I should tell him, you know what, you're right. A good father doesn't say stupid idiot to his son. But she's patient today. And she says, he said some awful things himself and provoked you. At the same time, I know reminding him of his values. She's reminding him that he did not lose his values. And this leads father to say, you're right. I hate being like that. It's just not me. And mother says, and you care about him and you're worried about him, all his values. And this leads father to say, I should let him know that without losing control and exploding. And then mother says, with our son, it's really hard to be a Buddha. I lose control with him, you lose control, and he definitely loses control. If you feel that you need to apologize for your actions, we can do that. And then he says, yes, that's what I'll do. Now, it's very interesting. If she would have said 3 sentences before, if you feel you need to apologize for your actions, we can do that, he would refuse. He would refuse. Okay? If she would have gone to the solution, okay, I'll talk about the difference between solving the moment and solving the problem. If she would have solved the problem too early, she would mess it up. She tried to solve the moment before. Let's look at another example. Regulating the shame by reminding the parent of his influence. Okay, one source of shame is feeling weak, inferior. Okay, without impact, without influence. And again, the mother is going to regulate the father, later the father will regulate the mother. And the mother comes to father with a good intention. He dealt with the son about when to come back home in the evening, and she says, thanks for taking care of that. It only pisses the father, it reminds him of the fight. But he didn't listen to me at all, and I don't know why I always have to be the one to take care of it. This is a provocative statement. And people who are hurt and who are experiencing shame will often, use provocative statements. Okay? And she could have answered in a provocative way herself and saying, you always have to, you do it once and it's always you. But again, she's patient, and she said, he'd listen to you more than he would have listened to me. Okay, if I had been there, things wouldn't have gotten much worse. Okay, now we know that in families, usually one parent is more effective than the other. But they don't complement each other as much as they should. And father says, I guess you're right. And the mother says, with always arguing, you still have some impact on him. I wish I had that. Which leads father to say, you're right. He does listen to me sometimes. Okay, 2 minutes before the father felt weak, helpless, without any influence, 2, 3 sentences, suddenly he feels okay that he has some influence over at the time. And last dialogue is the dialogue of reducing shame by moving closer, appreciating and experiencing togetherness. And here we have father comes to mother after she had a difficult interaction around the homework, and he says, thanks for helping Maya with her homework. Mother said, well, someone has to do it. And he could have answered, oh, the big martyr, someone has to do it. But today's father's turn to be at his best, and he says, I know. I just wanted to let you know that I notice what you do, and I appreciate it. Nice. Because you do, she's not used to him talking in this way. And he, feeling that he's successful, he goes on. He says, I probably should tell you this more often, and not let you feel that it's only your responsibility. Ubermensch. She says, well, it's not such a big deal, but I appreciate you saying that. Okay, it could have ended here, but this husband is feeling that he's totally on a positive way, and he says, and in the future, if it does become a big deal, let me know. Okay? Now, this is a little bit too much for this mother. She says, listen, who taught you to speak? Is this something you learned in therapy? She's becoming cynical, okay, she's happy but cynical, and he doesn't listen to such this husband, who I was married to him. He's not becoming cynical, he says to himself and says, Yes, you're right, but I mean every word. This is the moment you start crying. And she's saying, oh, you're so cute. My only mistake is that I should have sent you to therapy a long time ago. But, parents don't talk to each other this way. They have fights. And when they have fights in session, what I do is I actually differentiate between low, I call them low shame, low conflict fights, and high shame, high intensity fights. And these are actually two strategies that we use in order to regulate the fights during the session. In low shame or low intense conflict fights, what we do is we remind the parents, okay, that we're suggesting a program which is flexible enough to meet both their needs. Okay, this is Chaim's. Okay, one of the inventions here, which is we're offering, okay, and parents who are starting to fight you're too soft, you're too tough, okay, a program that's telling father, it's too tough, you're right, we need to take action, and we tell mother, you're right, we need more support and to be more gentle. And I'm going to offer you a program that has both aspects. And I'll tell you, with most parental conflict, this works. Okay, they become curious, okay, which is a sign that shame is reduced. And they want to hear, what's this program? And for most parents, this idea that we say we're going to, you're both right, we need this ingredient and we need that ingredient, is enough, okay? Another thing which is very interesting, and we know it was Chaim and myself, after the first, research trial with parents, was that without talking at all about their relationship, they moved closer. Okay? After only a couple of sessions, we noticed that the parents were more intimate with each other. Why? Because this is the only program that, you need two for it to be effective. The behavioral model to punish and give positive reinforcement, you need only one parent. Okay, and here we have suddenly a model where you need two. And that's the power of this model. Okay? And these shared experiences are what, creates the intimacy. Now, I was thinking, at the time when we were doing this project, I saw that they were becoming more intimate, and when I was doing my studies, there were all these questionnaires. I thought to myself, maybe I should add another question of how many times they're having sex before doing NVR, how many times they're having sex after, and then maybe we can market this program as, listen, you do this, you're going to have more sex. Now, when we started this program, this was a radical move on Chaim's part, especially in Israel. Okay? I remember that working with family therapists, their main belief was if you have a child with behavioral problems, the prime suspect at the end is the relationship between the parents, the couple relationship. Okay, the problematic behavior is only a metaphor. And this idea of not touching the relationship was something very innovative. I remember I had a family therapist as a supervisor, and this was maybe 15 years ago, and one day she calls me and she says, I'm working with these parents, and they're saying Chaim Omer, Chaim Omer, Chaim Omer, and I can't hear his name. Okay? Why? The father has been not talking with the child for a month. He bought Chaim's book, was very excited. And, and he asked this family therapist to coach them on the sit-in. He said, I don't understand this, whatever. Can you come to a single consultation? Then came in, the father says, yeah, I love the book. And I immediately done 2 sit-ins with this child, each one 3 hours, and it doesn't work. So I said, listen, maybe we should do something different. I suggested some reconciliation gestures. And after 2 weeks, she called me and she said, the father and the son are talking again. So this is good. And now, finally, we can start doing real therapy with the family. Okay, which means that she's going to talk about the relationship. Now, what do we do with high shame, intense shame? Intense shame, we cannot solve the problem. We need to talk about what's happening in the moment, which is that the parents are talking about their own relationship. Okay, we have to shift. There needs to be some shift, a momentary shift. We don't change the whole structure of our process, but to work on what's happening in the moment. And I've developed an intervention which I call systemic mirroring, which defines 3 main problems that are happening in the moment when parents are fighting with each other. The first thing is that each parent is actually experiencing a loss of voice. What do I mean by loss of voice? Loss of voice means that the parents cannot articulate their full experience. Okay, you're too tough, you're too soft, doesn't really reflect the whole experience of the parent. What are they really afraid of? What are their wishes? So it's my job as a therapist to help them move out of this rigid, voiceless position. Okay? But when parents lose their voice, what happens is that the parents as a relational unit lose connection. They start fighting with each other. And when they start fighting with each other, okay, the therapist experience a sense of loss of empathy. Okay, so the therapist can look at the parents fighting, or at least this therapist has these thoughts, and suddenly start thinking, I need to change my type of job. I need to stop working with parents, maybe just individual therapy. Or I start thinking to myself, I start having accusative and blaming thoughts like, oh my God, this father's, I'm thinking to myself, so rigid, he's impossible, he's so pathological. But maybe she's actually more pathological than me because she chose him as a husband. Okay? And I'm starting to have all these negative thoughts, and it's a clue that I lost my empathy, and I need to reclaim and recover my empathy. And through the systemic mirroring intervention, which I will show later, it's a type of conversation that I create, and which I do basically is I talk as if I'm each parent. I help them regain their voice, their connection, and I regain my empathy. And when it works, okay, the intimacy, the relationship between the parents becomes, okay, much stronger. And I wanted to end. There's a couple of therapists who says intimacy is only one sentence away, Dan Wild, which I really like. And I saw this cartoon which says there's the Jew, the Israeli and the Arab, and he's saying to the Arab, why is it we can never, where is it, what is it? Why is it we never focus on the things that unite us, like falafel? Thank you very much.